right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Monday Mindset. Excited to be here with you today. We're going to be sharing just in regards to the entrepreneurial shift that I've been seeing. The crazy part is, if you're with EXP, the people that we've seen in regards to things that are going on in the industry right now with mergers and acquisitions that are being made with real estate companies. I had the opportunity to be on a, a training with our CEO, Leo Pareja, just last week, where he was talking about this very thing. It's something that I've been talking about in real estate for the last probably 6 months. And to hear from a CEO of a company, a multi-billion dollar company, and to see that he is seeing the same things and obviously has greater insight into the future of what real estate looks like, it was really eye-opening. So it caused me to want to put this training together to really have some conversation and discussion around your future in real estate and how you should be positioning yourself in the industry in the coming years. And it's really just making this entrepreneurial identity for yourself. I think for many years we probably look at ourselves as entrepreneurs. We work for ourselves. We're independent contractors. But in the big scheme of things, when you're in a traditional brokerage and even in some agent-centric brokerages, you're positioned in a place where you are not necessarily, an entrepreneur where you are running your own business. You're still, in essence, working from one deal to the next. You're in a position where it's, you're building the company brand, not necessarily your own brand. So we're going to talk about a few of those different things and these small shifts that you can make that can make a tremendous difference on your growth in the coming years. And more importantly, because the industry is already making these shifts for us, a lot of people are not going to have a choice. I would say up until probably honestly the pandemic, we have been in an industry where things had gone pretty much the same for roughly about 30 years. The last big disruption in the industry of real estate was when we went from the real estate book to an MLS. And the reason I say that that was a huge disruption, again, it made it so much easier for us as agents to be able to go online and find properties for our clients. But what it also did is it was the emergence of the Zillows, of the Redfins, of the Homes.coms, of all those companies that we now kind of feel like we're in competition with. And that was a massive shift in the industry during that time that has continued to grow over that time. And here it is now, we're in another massive shift. And a lot of times we feel like, well, it doesn't necessarily affect me, because Compass is doing this with Anywhere and the NAR, settlement is doing this, but, we've already made the adjustments. But I'm going to show you today how those tweaks, how those other companies doing the things that they're doing have a huge impact on each and every one of us that carry a real estate license. So let's talk about the really the new landscape of real estate as we're starting to see it unfold right now. Right now, we're seeing a lot of legal aspects of what's happening in real estate. Um, I don't know. I can't remember a time where we've been scrutinized. I mean, there are individuals out there that are talking about real estate agents are making too much money doing what they do, and they have whole YouTube and Instagram channels that talk about that. We live in this very litigious society where people are suing. We had the major NAR settlement that made a tweak in our business. And if you think about from a standpoint of since 2020, we've seen increase in prices in gas, in food, in our cost of living. We've seen, certain industries, certain companies, certain businesses where they have helped their employees to, with cost of living raises that match that. If you think about it for our industry, while, again, goods and services tend to go up because of whether it's tariffs, whether it's, just cost of living. So businesses and companies that sell goods and services tend to still offset their costs because they're passing that off to the consumer. But if you think about with us, with the NAR settlement, with kind of what's become status quo in certain parts of the country, our commissions have gone down because prior to 2021, it was a standard in Colorado, or at least the Metro Denver area, that you made 2.8%. And then I remember before the NAR settlement, and we were in a really busy seller's market, we started to see 2.5, maybe even 2% that a seller was willing to pay. And then, of course, the NAR settlement came and it kind of, disrupted all of that. And now everything is up for negotiation. And it's like, sometimes it's a good deal when you're getting the 2.8% that you were getting 5 years ago anyway. So, we are in an industry where we didn't get a raise necessarily. In some cases, we actually lost money or are losing money. So it's something to think about from the commission standpoint, the legal aspect of it, the tech disruption. Now, those of you that know me, you know that I'm really big into AI. The reason being, not because I want to be, because I have to be, because I realize that if I'm going to continue to stay in this industry and I'm going to have an impact on my clients, I'm going to have an impact on the organization that I'm growing, I have to stay apprised of what's available, what's going on in that space, because it is changing so rapidly. And I started looking closely at it about 2 years ago. And what I learned 2 years ago to where I'm at now has changed almost on a daily basis in regards to AI and tech and how we can use it to grow our businesses. So that's another area of disruption that we're seeing. The industry consolidation, I mentioned it a minute ago. Compass made a big move where they're purchasing Anywhere, which is a consolidation of Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Better Homes and Garden, quite a few other real estate firms into will all be absorbed into Compass. In essence, making it the biggest real estate, entity in the world. And so when you look at things like that and you feel like, okay, I'm not with any of those companies that are merging with Compass, it doesn't affect me. Absolutely, it affects you. Because what's happening is now you're getting companies that, EXP has, for the last 3 years been the number one company in transactions, the number one company in units sold. But when you have a bigger company now that's going to have more agents, they're going to have the potential to do more than what we're doing. And it doesn't matter if you're with EXP, you're not with EXP. When you have a company that's taking a position like that, it's going to affect your business no matter where you're at. And Compass is, I commend Robert Refkin on the steps that he's making, because he's doing what he feels from an entrepreneurial standpoint that best serves his country or his company and his agents. But and more so because his agents don't have any ownership rights. If his agents don't have any equity necessarily, unless they're buying it, themselves. So, in essence, he's doing it for him as any entrepreneur would. So, but we have to look at those things and examine them and understand how this is going to affect the industry. And I'm going to go through a little bit more telling you as we go through. And we have to take on this mindset of we're going to evolve or we're going to be eliminated. It's kind of, if you think about the dinosaurs, there was an opportunity of evolution but there was such quick change that happened from a geographical standpoint that they could not evolve fast enough. And it's almost like that in our business right now, that things are changing so quickly that it's hard to stay up with the change. It's hard to evolve with it. So we have to become much more fluid. A big part of that is switching your thinking from a salesperson to that person of someone that's looking at your business as an entrepreneur. And I was just, if you Google how many agents will leave the real estate industry in 2026, you'll see that there's multiple articles. NAR has put something out in regards to that. There's multiple real estate experts that have put information out in regards to that. And it's expected to be in the hundreds of thousands. I saw one where they said 300 to 350,000 agents will leave the industry. And that sounds, again, when you're thinking about it for yourself, you're like, okay, that's great because you're going to just thin it out where, just the real estate agents are left. But the other part of that is you got to ask yourself, am I going to be one of those 300,000 or am I going to be one of them that sticks and stays? So what am I going to do to make sure that at the end of 2026, I'm still here? So that's where it really comes into play of being able to understand um, everything that's happening that doesn't seem like it has an effect on you, but totally does. And so let's go into the mindset aspect and why your mindset matters in making this shift. Because right now, like I said, the rules are being rewritten. Um, and, you can say they're rewriting themselves, but again, there are people at the top that are also playing a role in rewriting these rules. There are people that have already had a great deal of success that are finding ways to, in essence, create a monopoly around the the space of real estate. We're seeing it with the merger of Redfin and Rocket Mortgage. We're seeing all these different companies that are coming together that are trying to get a bigger piece of the pie for them. And again, if you're not necessarily a part of that company, it is going to have an effect on you. But guess what? If you are a part of that company, if you are a part of Redfin, what they've done is they've just solidified how many employees, real estate agents that have licenses that will be employees of Redfin, not entrepreneurs. So again, it's really understanding what's happening in the landscape of real estate right now. And then they're creating a brokerage dependency and that should be looked at really as for you as an agent, it should be looked at as a liability. But what I see far too often when I meet with agents and I talk to agents about building something of a business model for themselves from an entrepreneurial standpoint, their questions are about cap. Their questions are about splits, things of that nature. This is coming from a salesperson perspective. It's coming from an employee mindset, where when I'm looking at caps and splits, I'm looking at how much of that split that goes to the company is actually going back to the agents that are building the company. And that's a different way of looking at that. How much of the cap, is the cap big enough to sustain creating a model that helps other agents grow their business? So again, we have to kind of rethink how we look at certain aspects of our business as we're continuing to grow. And entrepreneurs right now are gaining control in this industry. The beauty of, when you have an agent-centric business model, and when I talk about that, EXP is not the only agent-centric business model. It was just the first, but there are quite a few other companies that are hybrid, I like to say, of the agent-centric business model. And I explain what I mean here in just a second. But nonetheless, they are moving in that direction of helping agents to build their own brand, create their own impact in the industry that is scalable, that helps them to create leverage in their business as well. Let's see if we can. All right. All right. So let's just kind of talk about traditional versus the entrepreneurial agent. Again, the traditional agent, again, is focused really on you're looking at your pipeline. You're looking at the number of deals that you currently have, that you have coming in the future. And again, I will tell you from a standpoint of being an entrepreneurial agent, you're doing some of that as well. But as an entrepreneurial agent, you're not just looking at your pipeline and you're not just concerned about your pipeline. You're looking and you're concerned about the pipeline of the people that are part of your organization, not employees, but your partners, the people that you're collaborating with. One of the big things for me is, providing coaching and training for our group that helps every agent grow their business. They get the bigger piece of the pie. I get a small piece, but I'm doing something that, bringing the skill set that I have from a marketing, branding, AI standpoint, and I'm not holding it close to the vest. I'm sharing the wealth with all the agents that are part of our organization to be able to help them grow their business as well. So, but from a traditional agent standpoint, you're usually just looking at your own pipeline. You become very brokerage dependent, relying on the brand and their recognition. Um, and when you think about it, people don't do business with Century 21, Keller Williams, EXP. They do business with that agent that they know, like, and trust, that they've built a relationship with. Because if you were to change and go to a different company, they're not going to say, well, because you left Century 21 and went to EXP or KW, can't do business with you. No, they do business with you. So that's why it's important to always build your brand. Even if you are with the traditional brokerage, you should still focus very much on building your brand first and the company brand second. EXP just happens to be one of those companies that allows you to build your brand first and you don't get any pushback. The limited scaling, your ability to scale. Now, scaling in a traditional brokerage is going to happen if you are a team lead. If you're running a team, then yeah, you're positioned yourself to scale. But imagine this. Imagine if you're running multiple teams. You can't run multiple teams in a traditional brokerage. In an agent-centric business model, entrepreneurial standpoint, you can run multiple teams, and I'll touch on that here in just a second. Um, and getting out of the employee mentality, getting out of the paycheck to paycheck, look of your business, and really looking at your business from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And then lastly, there's really, in most cases, they're not equity that's built. If your company is not publicly traded and they're not doing some type of equity share with you, then you're truly just in a position of an employee. And my biggest fear with that, again, being 57 years old, being able to retire. Now, I have a retirement from my past profession as a police officer, but again, I wanted to have something that I position myself to have a retirement in real estate as well. So the entrepreneurial agent is going to have that CEO mindset. You're going to be you're not looking at your day to day of your personal production activity. That may be a small piece of what you look at, but you're also looking at the other aspects of the growth of your business, the other ways that you can have revenue coming into your business, the ability to be able to scale systems, and again, take something that you have built, show it to others, and teach them how to build the same thing, and they operate what they're building. That becomes scalable and it creates leverage because you have multiple people, multiple teams that are creating that. And you don't have to necessarily be involved in their day to day, but they're still continuing to grow their business, which in turn grows yours. And then creating a value creation by generating those multiple revenue streams. Again, 15 different revenue streams that you can get paid in. That's going to grab people's attention to understand, well, wait a minute. I only thought you could get paid on, my own production, and being able to show people multiple ways that they can get paid. Brand ownership, again, this is really staying in control of your own message. I think, I've met some highly successful real estate agents at different companies. And then at those same companies, you'll have agents that are, struggling. They're having a hard time. And you can see the difference in the brand that is being shared with the masses. And it's because that agent understands, the brand ownership. And then the equity accumulation, again, being able to position yourself to be able to retire from the industry of real estate is something that you also want to be able to look at. So the agent-centric advantage, again, it gives you the ownership opportunities where you're building something not only for you for retirement, but for your legacy, something that can be left behind after you're gone, literally can be passed on to your children and continues your financial legacy on through your passing. Brand control and freedom, like I said, I think that this is one of the areas where this is what sets agents apart. I see agents that are doing some amazing things on social media, whether it's just providing value in real estate. Some agents are entertaining. I have agents that I look at all the time. They have some funny videos. They have some great content that they're putting out. But they're building a brand around it, and that brand is bringing business in for them. And then a leverage shift. This is the area that, once again, in a traditional brokerage, the only leverage that you tend to usually have is if you start your own team. And I can tell you, I've talked to team leads where, a lot of times when they look at the amount of money that they're investing, in lead gen, if they're renting a space or they own a space, all the overhead that they're putting into it versus what's coming back, sometimes it doesn't necessarily make sense for them. I can tell you, with the organization that I have, the team that I have within the organization, my costs are very low. I've positioned myself where, again, I wanted to be able to leverage, but I wanted to keep the cost at a minimal. So commission as revenue, this is one that I really want each of you to kind of, whether you're with EXP, whether you're an agent that's just joining us to kind of listen in, to understand the need to have to look at your commission as revenue versus a check versus something that you're spending on a personal level. A big part, probably 25 to 30% of my commission checks goes back into my business. And it's, really for the purposes of continuing to scale, continuing to grow. And this is a mentality that I took on probably about 8 years ago of just realizing that number one, I don't necessarily need all of the commissions to live on. So the best place for me to invest was back into me, back into my business. And so it's important that we're putting putting finances back into our business from a standpoint of whether it's, how you're doing your listing presentations, how you're doing your listings when they go on market and how you're advertising those properties, how you are marketing, more importantly, you, and where are you spending your advertising dollar to ensure that people are knowing who you are and what you've been able to accomplish as well. And then the back end, as far as whether it's a virtual assistants, whether it's using AI, right now I have a software that I'm using that is an AI virtual assistant that will take care of my emails. It'll take care of my social media. It'll take care of appointment setting, all these different systems. And again, when you're looking at your commission as revenue, you're always looking at, okay, how do I spend less of this revenue but still get the same impact that I need to get? So you're looking at how to grow and scale your business without necessarily breaking the bank to be able to do it. Um, Financial freedom through this structure. So, one of the things I think we can all agree that none of us want to be 80 years old selling real estate, continuing to sell real estate. We want to be in a position where we can retire, where we do have financial freedom, where we have the ability to live in a different market and still do business in, another market or multiple markets. For that degree. So once again, that's going to be stepping into real estate from an entrepreneurial standpoint versus being a real estate salesperson. So you got to build out what your operating budgets are going to look like. Again, whether it's on the technology side, whether it's, in virtual assistants, And then your growth capital would, sometimes it may make sense to take loans out, business loans to grow your business. And then as long as you're, properly allocating those funds for the growth of your business, you will see the development of that business over the course of time. And then creating profit by design. And what I mean by that is being able to have multiple revenue streams where money is coming in. I have within the 15 different revenue streams that EXP offers, I get paid in about five of those. And honestly, in some of them, I don't even know the money is coming in until I look at certain accounts. So being able to just realize and understand that growth is happening from a level of beyond just your own production, just your own closings that you're having, and positioning yourself to be able to see more of that in your business. Systems and leverage, I think again, the two go hand in hand. You probably heard the acronym for systems, save yourself time, energy, and money. So that's really, why you want to have systems in place. I can tell you over the past few years, it's been a constant that if I have an area that I'm spending too much time in, I'll go through and figure out a system, whether it's hiring a VA, whether it's hiring or finding something from an AI standpoint that will take care of this particular area. And it takes it off my plate, but I still have this part of my business running. And then by doing that, it's going to help you to create leverage. What leverage is basically giving you more of your time freedom to do the things that you want to do in life, to do the things that you enjoy doing without having to sacrifice losing revenue or income to be able to do it. Um, and again, it keeps you from being in that hamster wheel that I often see agents on is we're always looking for the next deal, is we're always looking to continue to build the business. For me personally, I'm not necessarily always looking for the next deal. I'm always looking for the next agent that I can help grow to this particular entrepreneurial mindset. I enjoy that part of the business at this point in my life of helping other agents to grow their business and put them in a position of creating that leverage for themselves. Collaboration over isolation. I think that this is a key part, and one of the things that I found with my company that we have been able to create collaboration within our company where you don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. And I think with the age that we're going into, where the changes that we're seeing in real estate, this is never going to be more important. I think you can even be at a traditional brokerage and you can feel very isolated because if it's competitive at the brokerage that you're in, well, you can be in the room with other agents and feel very much alone because there's not collaboration, there's not sharing, there's not one person helping, giving a leg up to someone else because they're looking at that person as competition. So again, being able to have the shared networks and the referral partnerships. We just had Friday, I brought on power partners of three people that I'm working with that I said, hey, I want to put you in front of some other agents that really need to know how valuable your services are so they can use you as well. So having those types of networks, the brand amplification, again, when you can see other agents and how they're building their brand, it will help to give you ideas on how to market yourself. And in many cases, those agents will probably help you to build the brand that you're looking for. Because I think the biggest thing on, this isn't a brand training, but I think the biggest thing in regards to understanding brand is understanding what you want people to think about when they think of you. And that's where you build your brand from. The team building aspect, the multiple revenue streams, and the collective intelligence with the mastermind sessions. Again, all of those different aspects, you can't get enough of that in regards to when you're trying to grow your business. And this is what creates a stickiness within your organization of, collectively being able to work together. The brand ownership, again, like I said, it really comes down to it, it's not just the logo, it's the value that you bring and what people think about when they think of you. I always use the example of Dr. Pepper. If you say the words Dr. Pepper, or if I see a Dr. Pepper sign, I love Dr. Pepper. I love the taste of it. I can literally taste it in those moments. And as much as I try to stay away now from soda, I'll be honest with you, I have two or three Dr. Peppers a week, maybe. But it is one of those things where just seeing the sign will stir a feeling in me in regards to how I feel about that particular brand. And that's how you want people when they get a newsletter via email or a postcard in the mail, they have a certain feeling about you because of the experience that they've had with you when working with you in the past. And freedom to build your own empire. I think this is probably the most important thing. I think as real estate agents, we are very creative. We are very, we have an entrepreneurial gene in us, but because we've been in systems that have really allowed for us to kind of turn off those creative juices because everything, for the brokerage that we were with had the branding, they had the marketing, but it's all marketing to that company, and we've accepted that. This gives you the opportunity to really build and go back and turn on those creative thoughts that you've had to build your own brand. And then entrepreneurial decision system. Does this action scale, my business? And this is where, again, you have to put, everything through kind of a matrix of seeing, is this suitable? Is this helpful for helping me to grow my business? One of the things that I do right now, if you've been on any of my Mindset Mondays over this last quarter, I've talked about persistence and consistency, and I've talked about routine, and I've talked about habits, because I realize that routines, habits, and being consistent in those areas are what's going to create success. In many cases, we may do something once, we may do something five times and not have the success, but it's not until the 10th, the 15th time of doing those things that we start to see success. And then more importantly, having a matrix to be able to measure and track what's happening. And then lastly, again, having someone that will be an accountability partner or an accountability coach that's going to be able to help you, through that aspect as well, whether it's coaching, whether it's masterminds. Again, you don't have to do this alone, and we're going to be able to show you how to be able to do those things within our group together. So success looks like beyond closings is the leadership growth. Again, being a leader in your industry, you're already naturally a leader. You're leading yourself, you're leading your clients. Now we're talking about, growing something from an entrepreneurial standpoint that's going to probably involve leading agents as well. And creating a passive income, for yourself. When you can create income that's coming in without you necessarily having to be there, it's an important aspect, to your business. Because again, there may be times when production is thin, but you have passive income that's benefiting you from that standpoint. And then the business that transcends you. Like I said, when you can walk away from the business and it can still continue to create revenue, that's where you have a business that's operating and you're not just self-employed, and kind of working from the day to day. Market demands for entrepreneurship. This is, again, we are in a market where right now, if you start to look over 2026, the people that are leaving the industry, the mergers that are happening, you're going to start to see the walls are kind of closing in, and it's getting tighter and tighter in this industry. And that's why, like I said, now is the time to start looking at those things and how it's going to affect your business in the future. Controlling your assets, aligned with, empowerment platforms. These are areas that, again, as you're looking to grow from an entrepreneurial standpoint, that you have to take those things into account and really put yourself in a position to be able to grow, uh, be, uh, to grow beyond just your own production, but now looking at what it looks like to grow past that. So shift your identity, today. So start with taking on that entrepreneurial mindset. Start with looking at your business, not just from a production standpoint, but from what it looks like to grow your own business. Discover the agent-centric business model. Again, it doesn't have to be EXP. There's many other agent-centric business models out there. Look at them all. See which one makes the most sense for what it is that you're trying to grow for yourself. But when you see more companies that are moving to that business model, that's a tell. That's a sign that things are changing, and a lot of people are starting to see the necessary needs for the change. And then connect with the right people. And then, most importantly, take the first step, take action on what it is that you want to do for yourself moving into the future. So I know we went a little bit over today, but a lot of information to kind of stuff into 30 minutes. But I appreciate all of you for being here today. Hopefully this was helpful to each of you, and look forward to talking to you more and sharing more with you in the future. Thanks. Take care.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.